Hi guys, this is Valerie with Infertility The Black Experience. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning in, supporting, and listening. Please subscribe if you are watching the videos. Please subscribe, set your notifications. Please join us also on our Facebook group page. It's Infertility The Black Experience. Also at Instagram, Infertility The Black Experience. So thank you for coming back to the channel and supporting me, and I hope that you guys are well. Hope you're having a good day today. Today is October 31st, Halloween. It's so funny. Can't believe this month went so fast, so quickly. So anyway, guys, I am talking about Infertility, the Black Experience. Why Infertility, the Black Experience? It's because I myself and my husband went through infertility, going through different things as far as IVF, and ultimately, infertility in general, and ultimately we ended up using a gestational surrogate to start our family. So I'm kind of like chronicling this journey through the things that I went through, hoping to share and hoping to share just resources and things that we went through. Sorry guys, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm just like, whatever, but that's okay. So just kind of chronicling my journey and talking about things that I went through, hoping that it can help someone who may be starting their own journey, and being able to kind of glean some information and make different decisions, or just kind of share what I went through. Also, when you're going through infertility, not sometimes, you really feel alone. You don't really have a lot of people to talk to about it, because sometimes people just can't understand, and then sometimes people just assume that you can't handle talking about it. I feel like that was kind of a lot of situations that went on with me. It was like, it wasn't so much that I was uncomfortable, it was because people were kind of uncomfortable, and so it was kind of awkward, and so yeah, that whole thing. But anyway, so that's why I wanted to offer this channel and just a voice, just to give people a voice to be able to talk about it, and all the things that entail the emotional roller coaster, the shame, the guilt, all kinds of societal things that happen, religious things that happen, and things in your family, and your relationship also. We're gonna get all into it, guys. So yeah, so it's really helpful for me just to talk about it too. So I'm glad that you guys are here, and I'm glad that you are supporting me, and I'm glad, I'm happy. I just feel like I keep saying, I'm glad I'm this, I'm glad I'm that. So anyway, but at any rate, so that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of chronicling and kind of getting the overlay of, everything's going on. So I was thinking about my teenage years, and I was thinking about not only the teenage years, but, getting out of high school and going into college. And on my last video, I was talking about how, as young women, it's always like, there was a saying that I used to hear years ago, and people would say, ain't nothing open after midnight except legs, right? So we always tell these girls, you don't want to get pregnant. That's the big thing. You want to make sure that you're not looked upon as a strumpet, right? That's a old word, like a whore, different things like that. You want to keep your dignity and your honor and respect. And for somehow, if you did, you now were a person who was, lost value and things like that. It's funny, I was talking to my husband. I said, yeah, so, they used to tell us all these sayings as girls. What did they tell you guys? Like, did they tell you guys a saying, keep your pants zipped up or something? He's like, no, I don't remember anything. I don't remember anything that they would say. And so sometimes guys can get away with it, right? Women, we can't get away with all that stuff. And to be honest with you, we're really not built for that, because I think, when we talk about sex and emotions, sometimes we as women, it's like, oh my God, he told me he wanted to sleep with me, or he wanted to kiss me or something. So now it's like, oh gosh, this person loves me, right? And really for him, he's like, yeah, I just did that. You know what I'm saying? So it's definitely different. So we have to learn those ways and teach our girls and let them kind of understand this, what's going on. So like I said, early 20s, teens, you're just like, look, I ain't got time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm not trying to have no kids. A lot of girls who, friends that I had that had children, family members, it was almost like, you know, once they did have children, they had more responsibilities as a younger person. So when we would be off, you know, maybe going to parties and doing things like that, you know, they would have to stay home, and then they would have to figure out how to get some Pampers and how to take care of the child. Some situations, some women had to use government assistance to get them help. So I can definitely see and I understand where it would be very difficult for a young woman where she may lose opportunities and things like that. And sometimes how you can get lost in that also. Sometimes women never really recover from that, in the sense of, you know, her own potential, quote unquote. I hope I'm saying that in the right way. And you know, they kind of get lost in that. And then at the same time, like I said, I applaud a lot of teenage mothers who are doing it now and who have done it and, you know, exceeded with great success, you know, accomplished all the goals and all the things that they wanted to do. But for a lot of women, high school and college, it was the same line. Look, I'm not trying to get pregnant. I ain't got no time for that. I'm trying to do my career. I'm graduating school. I'm going to college. For me, in my 20s and when I left high school, I didn't think I could afford college. And I think that's true for maybe a lot of people. I wasn't aware. I didn't really understand that, hey, you may be able to get loans and different things like that. Just didn't have that information. And so I went to work. I worked, you know, got my apartment, and it was all about, you know, having fun, hanging out with your friends, you know, things like that. So, you know, it was just an exciting time. And the furthest thing you're thinking about is having children, because you've already been told, look, you don't want to do this. This is going to ruin your life somehow. You know, you're too young. You don't understand. You don't have any money. You don't have, and a lot of that is certainly true in a lot of ways. But at the same time, it didn't give me, and it doesn't give girls like a balance to say, yeah, you know, you may want to delay doing that, but you also need to have a plan in place. And that's what I want to talk about today: having a plan in place. I guess this is something that I would have wanted to know. At the same time too, like, it's so much new medical technology and things that come out, is different options to you guys who are in your 20s and 30s, your teens, you know, things like that, that you're like, too, I ain't got time for it. I talk to a lot of young girls and they're like, I'm not trying to have no kids. Look, no, that's not what I'm trying to do. I'm not even trying to get married. Like, it's so sad, you know, because they're like, I guess, so turned off. They think that they don't really see a lot of good relationships, or we just don't talk about it, because there's a lot of good relationships. Marriage and relationships are not easy, but it's certainly doable, and you can do it successfully. It takes a lot of work. Well, I won't say it takes a lot of work, because it should, you know, it does take a lot of work, but I'm not saying it in a bad way, like it takes a lot of work. But what I'm saying is that you have to work at it. You have to build. And then the thing for me, I got married in my 20s, and so what happens is the person that I was in my 20s and the person that my husband is now, we're not the same people. So you want to look at, when you're choosing mates, you want to also look at who you can grow with, right? Who you can grow with. You don't want to be, you know, you're in your 20s and you have somebody who's just, you know, like, oh, he likes to play video games, and then 30 years later he still wants to play video games. So, you know, it's just a lot. That's a whole nother chapter. But I wanted to talk about some things that you guys can do, because like I said, a lot of the women now, they're just turned off. They're turned off from wanting to have children. They're all about doing their careers. I'm so proud. You guys are really amazing. I mean, you guys are lawyers, you guys are doctors, you're going to school, you're being successful, you're teachers, you're artists, you're singers, you're, you know, whatever you're doing, it doesn't matter. Like, oh, this is better than the other one. The point is to do your purpose, have a talent for what you're doing, but at the same time too, you have to make a living, right? So we're not just going to sit here and say, you know, I want to be an astronaut, and you working on it, but you can't pay your rent, right? Or, you know, stuff like that. So it's common sense, and it's also a balance. Sometimes you have to have your hobby and your things that you like to do, but at the same time too, you have to have something that you can sustain yourself, and you can pay your bills, and you can take care of yourself and things like that. Start a business. That's something that's really good too. So again, like I said, ain't nobody got time for that. I didn't have time for that. And one thing, I don't know if you guys know or not, but this is something that I found out when I was going through the process. A woman, when she's born, she has all the eggs that she's ever gonna have, you know. So that's like deep, because I think they said, and I just want to make a disclaimer, like all the information I'm going to talk about is kind of medical stuff and things. I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not telling you this is true. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just explaining really my own experience and things that I've learned. And you know, you could just take that with a grain of salt. You want to look it up and you want to research it yourself. I'm just sharing with you things that I did and things, my experience. So at any rate, yeah, women are born with all the eggs that they're going to have. So they say it's probably about upwards of 1 million eggs. So you have a potential of a million eggs, right? But what happens is once you get in your 20s and 30s, I think it said by your 30s, you only have 12% of that left. And so once you get in your mid-20s and your 30s, it starts declining. It starts declining. And so this to me is like a really dangerous thing that, you know, I think girls, women, you know, young women don't really consider and don't really, may not even know. Because sometimes you think you have time, and as you guys know, it goes by so fast. It's just like a blur. Like, oh my gosh, it goes by so fast. You know, you're having fun, you're with your friends, you're traveling, you know, you're in school, you know, and you're like next year, you know, next year, and all these things. And then the next thing you know, you look up and you're like 20 something, you're almost 30 years old. So you want to have a plan for that also. The thing about infertility and what happened with my situation is, you don't really know there's a problem until you start trying. You know, I went for my regular pap smears and things like that. You know, never had a problem, never was anything like, oh, you know, something, whatever. Never had a problem. But like I said, with infertility, you never know there's a problem until you start having children. You start to try to get pregnant, especially if you're on like birth control pills. Once you try to start getting pregnant, it's gonna take, it may not go right away because you're on birth control. So you kind of have to like quote unquote work that out of your system, if that's the way if I can use that expression. So you want to work that out of your system, and then that's when you realize that there may be a problem. So I just wanted to say, you know, as far as that goes, guys, you know, ask more questions. Like when you're doing your gynecology, you know, when you're doing your annual visits, like I said, to some people do more than an annual, go for semi-annual, check and make sure, you know, your fallopian tubes, you know, everything is in order and there's no blockages, there's no, you know, scar tissue and things like that. Check your ovaries, you know, there's no cysts or anything on the ovaries. You know, your uterine lining, because that's important too. Your lining inside your uterus, that has to be strong enough to carry a child. So sometimes you can find things with that. There's another one where I think it's it's like a prolapse uterus. A lot of women have tilted uterus. It's not really a problem because a lot of people get pregnant with it, but your doctor just want to kind of know about that. So the uterus is tilted, and sometimes that kind of hampers fertility because the uterus is tilted in a different position. So the uterus lining, fibroids, and then the other thing is you definitely want to practice safe sex. That's something that's important. Of course, you know, you can have all these sexually transmitted diseases that can definitely affect your infertility. So guys, you have to be diligent, and you know, you may say, hey, I ain't got time for that right now. But trust me, later on when you're trying to start a family, you might have been kissing all these frogs, but then you might find your prince and be like, okay, I want to start a family. But then all these things come back up and you don't really have a plan to do that. So protect yourself. It's not even so much protecting yourself, it's also respecting yourself, respecting your body, giving yourself, you know, self-respect. You know, you want to do that as well. Having that sense of self-respect, that's a part of it also. The other option I really wanted to talk about, and I think it's important, I don't know if you guys know about it, but it's a process that's used in IVF, and it's called, the technical term is oocyte cryopreservation. Oocyte. So the oocyte is the eggs, it's OOCYTE. and then cryopreservation. And so basically it is freezing your eggs. That's really what it is. It's freezing your eggs. So I think that's a good option, because what happens is, say for instance, if you're 25 or you're 20, whatever, you're in your 20s and things like that, and you say, hey, I ain't got time for this, I ain't trying to do this right now, I'm trying to go to the party right now, I'm trying to go travel, do whatever I'm doing, and I haven't met the right person, you can have a procedure where you can go and preserve your eggs. So what that means basically is that it kind of delays that ticking clock, right? So what'll happen is, say for instance, you decide when you're 32, you want to have children. What'll happen is that's when you'll unfreeze those eggs, and it won't be you at 35 having a baby, it'll be a 25-year-old egg. That's the beautiful thing about it, because a lot of times as women get older, there's more instances of miscarriage. So when you get into like your 30, 35 and to 40, they call that like high risk pregnancies, and like basically they call it like old people. They call it like I forget the term, I can't think of it right now, but it's basically like matured age. I'll think of it later. It's a funny term, because I was like, what? But anyway, once you get older, you start having more instances of miscarrying children and things like that. So if you have that, your 25-year-old self, those eggs at 25, they still operate, and you don't have a high instance of this child may, you may have a miscarriage, because it's not your 35-year-old self delivering, it's the 25-year-old. So you can do that. So what happens, I just want to give you guys a little overview of that, because that's what that's what I did. And that also, if you go through IVF, you go through that process also. But anyway, the other thing about freezing your eggs too, guys, is that it's good for people who may develop cancer and have to do chemotherapy or radiation, because say for instance, you're in your 20s and then you end up with, God forbid, whatever kind of cancer, cervical cancer, whatever, you end up getting sick and things like that. Radiation and chemotherapy destroys your ovaries. And so that way you can guard, that's a way that you can guard that, if you decide to, that you want to have children later on, you have your eggs frozen, and it's not going to affect you. Or if you are in that situation where you have cancer or some other kind of thing where you have to take chemotherapy or radiation, you can do it before that cycle starts and before that process starts of what you're doing. Cryopreservation, freezing your eggs, is probably about $6,000 to $10,000. I know it is covered by insurance. It's covered by insurance. So what you want to do, if this is something you guys are looking at, like I said, I think the insurance stuff is coming up where you pick your insurance companies. You guys have to, look into things like that and find out what do they cover. Which insurance covers this? Do they cover the medications? Do they do different things like that? But insurance covers it. I don't know if it has to be a reason or whatever, but just read into it. You can ask questions and things. But like I said, this is definitely a good option, so you guys don't run into a brick wall later on and try to scramble and figure it out. Because that's what happens, and that's what happened to me. Because like I said, sometimes you just automatically think like, come on, you just have children. It's no problem. And you figure like, okay, I'm doing my annual pap smears and I'm doing my annual things. Wouldn't I have known it was something? No, you won't know. You won't know until you're trying or you're specifically looking for something. And so that's what happens. So a little bit about the process of oocyte cryopreservation, freezing your eggs, is that what they first do is you take medication to hyperstimulate your ovaries. Not hyperstimulate your ovaries, to stimulate your ovaries. The one I took, it was Gonal F, and I think that is like a Metroprin or something like that. But it's just basically something that stimulates your ovaries. And then you also have to take a medication to prevent premature ovulation, because every cycle, right, every month, you're going to ovulate. So you take a medicine, Lupron, that's the one I took. You take that to not have like a premature ovulation. can't talk today, guys. So one of the risks of the egg freezing process is that you can get your ovaries can get hyperstimulated, and that's what happened to me. Oh my gosh, that's like a painful experience, because what happens is you're taking these medications to hyperstimulate your ovaries to produce more than like 1 or 2 eggs. And I think usually when you do it, you can come out with like 20 something eggs. Like it could be a lot. Now, it doesn't mean that every one of them will be viable, but you end up with a lot of eggs. And so that's why the medication, it makes you have more. And then it could happen where you get hyperstimulated, where the ovaries become swollen. And that happened to me. Oh my gosh, guys, that is so, it's really painful. It's really uncomfortable. And it works itself out. Like, you know, ultimately it goes down and everything. But when I did, I think I was like, like I said, I did like 3 cycles, and I think in my second, I think it was the 3rd cycle, after that I was like, I can't do this anymore, because it was just too emotional. It wasn't necessarily the pain of whatever, it was just too emotional going through these cycles and going through this and that. But like I said, we'll get more into that whole thing. So that is one of the risks. But you know, the other times that I did it, I didn't have an effect or anything like that. So I would definitely recommend to do it. I think the gain is better, you know, it's more better than the risk, like, you know. And I know, like, a lot of people, when they do IVF, you don't hear a lot of people saying that they got hyperstimulated, and sometimes it's just the doctor, like, and that's what happened in my sense, now I'm thinking about it. So they'll prescribe a certain amount of milligrams or milliliters, whatever it is, of the Gono F, and if it becomes like it's too much, then you just have to say, listen, I'm having pain and this is too much, and then they'll tell you to take less, and then that'll be like, it's just too much medication. And so what they do is, you are asleep, you take you'll have like a what do you call those things, and you'll be I can't think of the word, but you'll be asleep. Excuse me, I'm sorry. So you'll be asleep. It's not anything that you're done with, you know, done while you're awake or anything like that. And it's like a needle. They take the needle. It's like a, what do they call it? It's like this little needle, and it aspirates. It has a little sucky thing at the end, and it'll just aspirate all the eggs out. And then they will freeze them. And when you get ready to use them, they unfreeze them, and then they use sperm to fertilize it, and then that's the embryo, and then whoops, it goes back into the uterus, and boom, you know, you're a mommy. Hopefully that's how it goes. That's the plan, girls. And so that's what it is. So the good thing about this, guys, it's not that expensive. It's like I said, between $6,000 and $10,000, but your insurance company should cover it. You have to call the insurance company and find out you know, what they cover, whatever. And then the second thing is, and hey, if you guys are you know, doing really well in your professional career, $6,000 is not a lot to say, hey, I'm gonna pay for this, I'm gonna save up for this, and this is something that I'm gonna invest in my future. And you know, so it's worth it. To me, it's worth it, rather than having the situation of the emotional and the more expensive thing later on, you know, to try to figure it out and try to fix whatever's going on. So so that's about $6,000 to $10,000, and to store it, because you have to pay to store it. So once they freeze your eggs, it's like, okay, where are we gonna put this? So there's cryopreservation, and cryo just means frozen. So there's frozen storage places that they will keep it like really like frozen. I remember one time when we were doing a cycle, and we had to take our the frozen embryos and stuff like that, and we had to bring it with us to the doctors, like in this tank. You ever see all these things? I don't know what they use. Maybe it's nitro something, but it's like this tank. It almost kind of looks like a fire hydrant, but it's like long, and you're you know, you're walking with that stupid thing around because your embryos. So, oh my gosh, the things we go through, guys. Infertility it's a whole nother animal. So we're walking around with our frozen tank, you know, getting ready to go in and do our transfer. Lord have mercy. But anyway, so it's frozen. But that per year, guys, is only $2,000 per year, and you don't pay it like in one time. So you could pay it per month, or you could pay like $99 a month, or you could pay. I think we did ours quarterly, so it's like $350 a month. So you can call different like I said, infertility is a big business. So you have places that will do the freezing, the retrieving, all of that is done in-house. Everything should include that $6,000 to $10,000. And also there's places that will that you can have it preserved, like in storage. And so I think they said if you have eggs that, say for instance you do it at 20 something years old or whatever like that, that can last 15 years. That'll be like 10 to 15 years where you can you can still get used by that. So guys, that is just some information, because I know you guys are saying ain't nobody got time for that. I said the same thing in my 20s. It's like ain't nobody got time for that. I'm not trying to be out here and have no kids. I'm trying to go to the club. I'm trying to go hang out with my friends, and I'm trying to go to college and travel abroad, and all these wonderful things you guys are doing. And I really applaud you ladies. You really can have it all. You can have it all in the sense of you can, one of the things years ago, a lot of women didn't have the opportunity. When I think about my mom and think about other women, they had dreams. Oh, I always wanted to do this. I always wanted to do that. But guess what? They made a lot of sacrifices for us, raising their children, and they didn't get those opportunities. And now you guys have the opportunity to, I want to do this. I want to pursue my dream. I want to go here and do this and that. And you can, guys, you can do that. But you can also have a family as well. It's not a situation where you have to choose one or the other. You really can have it all. You really can have it all. It's just going to take some planning on your side. It's just going to take some thoughtfulness. It's going to take some foresight, and be smart about it, guys. You might say, look, I ain't got time for that. I already know I'm 20 something years old right now, and I know I ain't trying to have no kids, but then you're not the same person when you were 20 something. When you're another few years down the line, things change. So just take heed, even if that's the case, it's a small price to invest, to just think about preserving your eggs. Think about just when you go into those I can't talk today. When you're going to those annual visits, guys, ask deeper questions. Have them check it out. Check out your lining. Make sure there's no fibroids there. Check out, the ovaries, no cysts. Just be diligent. And so that's all I have for you guys today. So that was my teenage years. Ain't nobody got time for this. I wish I did have time for it, because I would have been more, I probably wouldn't have just assumed, you know what I'm saying? I just kind of assumed, oh, I do my annual visits, there's nothing wrong, I just get pregnant, it's no problem. You guys, just, hey, you think you're just gonna stop taking birth control, and whoops, there it is. And sometimes that's not the case. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please share the video with other people. Subscribe, join our Facebook page, turn on notifications. Please send your comments if you have anything to say or any questions, or anything about what I talked about. Again, I'm not giving medical advice. I'm not in the medical field. I have no, I'm not giving advice in that situation, just from my own experience and things that I would recommend to other people. But do your own research. Just giving you guys some options of things that you may be able to do. All right, guys, I love you so much. Thank you so much for watching. This is Infertility The Black Experience, and I really appreciate you guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye.